Hello and welcome. Okay, let's begin with the fact that I genuinely enjoy rFactor 2 as a simulator, random bugs and all. Taking for example the McLaren 720S around Sebring, or the Porsche 911 RSR around Le Mans, and where both tracks are laser scanned, I enjoy a lot. And Monaco, or Circuit d'Azur as it had to be called, and I'm okay with Formula E. I purchased that content as well. However, I'm not buying that version of Monaco. No disrespect, but I'd rather have the full circuit, and especially given the price between the two versions. And there's so much good free content from Studio 397 to enjoy, such as the updated Zandvoort. And before continuing, I should of course mention the year 2020, which has been a challenge, resulting in an explosion of sorts in sim racing and esports in general. rFactor 2 has of course been part of that, and it was fascinating to watch, for example, one of the Race All-Star Series events, where one of the commentators was Paul Page, who's been covering the Indianapolis 500 since 1970. And with Mario Andretti at 80 years old, taking part in a sim race after getting tips from the one and only Rudy Van Buren. And Fernando Alonso participating after only just getting his own sim rig. As I was gathering my thoughts for this video, it was announced that Studio 397 would be working with the ACO and Motorsport Games to host a virtual Le Mans in June 2020, when the actual 24 hours of Le Mans would have been held. And they're finally adding the GTE and GT3 spec Ferrari 488. They also released an updated Radical along with some new Formula E circuits, while working hard to improve the graphics and performance of the game in general. So it's been a busy time for Studio 397. I watched the 24 Hours of Le Mans event live, and the parts I missed via the available replays on Twitch and YouTube. Links below. Firstly, it was amazing to experience such an event, the first of its kind, and no doubt the most high-profile sim racing esports event to date, with 50 cars driven by licensed real-world drivers and sim racers from 37 countries. The new World Endurance Championship TV graphics by Al Kamel Systems looked great, along with the Rolex branded timing, and there were times I had to remind myself that it wasn't the real 24 Hours of Le Mans. And secondly, as someone familiar with rFactor 2, it was kind of stressful to sit there waiting for the service to crash, which in this case they sort of did after 5 hours or so, which was something that had been prepared for, with scripts running in the background to record the ongoing lap progress, so that should a failure occur, the session could be restarted while retaining the lap count prior to the restart. And it was good to see Fernando Alonso and Rubens Barrichello back on track after their simultaneous penalty and pit stop errors. Robert Wickens, who was driving with Jimmy Broadbent, experienced force feedback issues, and after 11 hours or so, car number 20 from Team Redline, with Max Verstappen, Lando Norris and Atse Kirchhoff, had to retire due to some technical issues. And at this point apparently, Lando Norris uninstalled rFactor 2 live on his stream. I won't comment on that, but I can definitely understand his frustration. During the event, many drivers seemed to comment, "Give us the driving feel of rFactor 2 with the interface and ease of use of iRacing." Anyway, so here's the first question. Who is rFactor 2 for? For starters, it's PC only, not a problem. So is iRacing, and neither are releasing on consoles anytime soon. There's the competitive sim racers like Michi Hoyer and Rudy Van Buren, those actively involved in online leagues or esports teams, and who are familiar with race strategies and car setups. No doubt they could do with a better user interface and a few less bugs, but they get on with it since no doubt they enjoy the experience of driving in rFactor 2. I think it's fair to say that the life of any driving simulator is the selection and quality of its cars and tracks. and rFactor 2 even offers the McLaren Senna as DLC, the GTR version to be precise, and the Senna is on the cover art of Forza Horizon 4, and to say that these titles are a world apart is putting it mildly. While watching a stream of an rFactor 2 GT Pro Series event, the interest in esports for Luminous, the parent company of Studio 397, was confirmed. Luminous esports at scale being one of the taglines. So in a sense, is having rFactor 2 a way for Luminous to market their products and services, similar in concept perhaps to how KW Automotive uses Race Room. Perhaps Luminous see rFactor 2 as someday being a direct competitor to iRacing. To begin though, perhaps a more user-friendly and dare I say, visually more up-to-date user interface would assist in that goal, but more on that later. Let's take Formula E as an example. Their marketing content tries to convey the excitement of motorsport, and their YouTube channel is updated regularly, and in a way rFactor 2 has become the de facto simulator for Formula E. I watched one of the ABB Formula E Race at Home Challenge in support of UNICEF events. Now, given that the event was for charity, we'll excuse the apparent lack of some references. However, other than the rFactor 2 hashtag in the video description, there was no reference of where to get either rFactor 2 or the specific Formula E DLC. And while chat replay is now disabled for the recording of the Race at Home Challenge event, I know that during the race people were asking, what game is this? While others jokingly replied it was Need for Speed, etc. Now I get it that those asking might perhaps expect a mobile or console compatible title. Indeed, earlier they had been using EA's Real Racing for live on-site events, and ironically Rene Butler from Studio 397 was providing commentary. Here's the thing though, the rFactor 2 Twitter account will announce information on those same UNICEF sporting events and link to a page where the information that could possibly also be included in the Formula E livestream content is located. So is there a logical reason that prevents the ABB Formula E YouTube channel from directly linking to where you can get the game? I think it's safe to assume that Studio 397 are not in a hurry to update the rFactor 2 user interface, and the Luminous esports at scale thing is perhaps an element of that. As we mentioned, the life of any driving simulator is the selection and quality of its cars and tracks. And to be fair, Studio 397 have been trying, and there is indeed some nice content in there. But managing that content, where to start? I have a suggestion. I don't need the ability to view car content alphabetically, or by category like say in Project Cars 2. In that example, all the content is from one source. And yes, I know that Project Cars 2 supports mods on some level, but I don't have any of those installed. In rFactor 2, I have content originally developed by ISI and updated by Studio 397. Content installed via the Steam Workshop or as paid DLC by Studio 397, and paid DLC from Ryza Studios and KartSim. Third-party mods installed via the Steam Workshop, and then either free or payware mods installed using the package's functionality. And that's just for the cars. And then supposing I leave rFactor 2 for a while to go and play some other titles. Upon returning to rFactor 2, trying to recall from the car or track list which content is which is downright impossible. You just sort of have to know which content is which. Or am I supposed to jump out of the game and search the Steam Workshop to remind myself which content this is? Now don't get me wrong, as I said, the life of any sim is its content, and I'm glad to have as broad a selection of content as possible. But a more usable way to manage it in-game would be nice to have. The original Assetto Corsa has been turned by the community into a whole new title in a way. In this case, there is the original game content plus any DLC you purchased, and mods from sources too numerous to mention. But the Content Manager, the base version of which is free, allows you to visually see which content is which. I published a guide here on the channel on how to get started with rFactor 2, and which I thought at the time would soon become irrelevant following the release of the new rFactor 2 user interface. But it hasn't fully released yet, so it begs the question, where is it? Ryza Studios released content from Automobilista 1 for rFactor 2, and then went on to release into early access a new title, using a new game engine while the new rFactor 2 user interface was still being developed. And so on to the current state of the rFactor 2 user interface. I think that along with Ryza Studios, it might be fair to say that Kunos also developed a whole new title using a new game engine, Assetto Corsa Competizione, while the updated user interface for rFactor 2 was being developed. And Assetto Corsa Competizione is dedicated to a single motorsport format. We'll look at the current user interface, just for context when later taking a look at the beta build of the new user interface. The current system includes a separate launcher, and appears to synchronize content updates quicker than the new beta user interface. I don't fully understand why this series concept still remains. I recall there being a list of pre-configured race events to go through, a carryover from the original rFactor 2 from ISI, but those no longer exist. It turned out that I had added content there from a Steam Workshop content install. I had no idea it would appear there. And once installed, it will sit alongside all cars and track content. Accepting it replaces the stock user interface slightly, which you can then remove using the options. As said, a way to visually separate the various tracks and car content source types would be welcome, and the opponent filter element of the session settings is a pain to work with. The beta version of the new user interface currently retains just the graphics configuration dialog of the standard interface, and once started, any content to be updated will run, and which, as said, appears to be slower than the current user interface. In terms of the overall look and feel, the beta user interface, and using as an example the replay interface, is similar to the online competition registration interface, so I can see where they're going with this. And indeed, the official Studio 397 blog posts on the topic of the new user interface refer repeatedly to the new competition interface elements, shown here on a Twitch stream, and where you can see a similar theme in use. Beginning with start from the upper left, the race, watch and community content is repeated over on the right. I think that perhaps start news could also be under community. Okay, I get it that they want to place news front and center, but perhaps the news, watch and forum sections could be grouped together, or at least since they're similar content types. And in the same way, place race, single player, multiplayer and content in their own section as well. And start race is basically the same as just select race, so why the extra step in a way? Content, workshop and item store of course integrate with Steam and load as separate windows. Not optimal, but that's how it works right now. The new settings section is divided into this radial type menu, giving an overview of your current settings, and below a carousel to access the individual sections. From the race section, you can either continue with the previous session or customize to set up a new one. And still we have this series concept. Is it even necessary to retain this, or is it required to support mods which are based on a series like the one we looked at earlier? In the all tracks content view, again it's still difficult to know the source of the content, and at the time of recording there appeared to be a bug where Circuit d'Azur appears twice but only one of the items functions. The first thing I noticed and what I didn't like was the layout options at the top. For me at least, setting the list view as the default would be preferable, and the car view has the same issues. I kind of like the car logo presentation in this grid view though. And finally, the old loading screen concept has been replaced with a progress bar style graphic, where the sectors of the selected circuit are highlighted. This is nice. Overall, this is definitely prettier to look at than the standard user interface. Most of the comments I've read have been that I tried the beta and then I went back. And I might do so myself. If anything, right now, the standard interface appears to run a bit faster. Now forgive me for referring to Automobilista 2 again, but I think it's relevant to refer to the user interface as an example. There are two main panels, Race and Options. Under Race are all single and multiplayer modes, and under Options all related graphics and gameplay options. Consider the elegance of this layout compared to rFactor 2, that doesn't have any career type options. Well, it did have at one point, and a remnant of that still remains. And there isn't the visual noise of news, community or watch concepts. Just get straight to the gameplay, since isn't that what matters? In the end, I get the fact that Luminous and Studio 397 are focused on supporting competitions and esports in general. But here's the thing, Studio 397 took over maintenance of rFactor 2, and over time it seems that the new user interface concepts are just that, maintenance. A prettier layer on top perhaps, rather than creating something completely new. Wouldn't a more functional and streamlined experience assist in new player adoption, as well as esports? That's just a thought. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and enable the notification bell for future videos, and share the content as well with anyone you think might be interested in checking it out. Also, any comments or questions you might have would be very welcome in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you.